Pythagoras, the last thing that happened after you took all your tests to see if you were qualified to join was you had to have an interview with Pythagoras himself. And Pythagoras would sit while he talked to you, and he would cut an apple while he talked to you. And he would cut the apple at exactly 19.5 degrees, and when you do that, that's when you see the pentagram-shaped seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would hold the pentagram-shaped seeds towards the student in his left hand and eat the rest of the apple in his right hand. And if you did not say to him at some point in the interview, hey, look at that apple, isn't that astounding that it is the hypersphere, that this is that all of knowledge is encased in the way that apple has developed? You did not get into the school.
Wow. Yeah, that's and so many things, connects with this. Again, the apple, the forbidden fruit. We have, again, companies today called Apple. We have so many things right here. And 19.5 that connects me. I'm thinking about Hoagland's work, among other things, of course. Wow, that's amazing. And what I'm thinking about also is the fact that the Ben Franklin, when he was experimenting, or I guess he's attributed to being behind the discovery of electricity in one way or another.
Yep.
And the fact that he had a kite, and a kite in Swedish, if you not translate, but if what we call a kite is basically a dragon, or the fifth element, basically. And he, of course, tied a key at the end of at the tail of this dragon. So, I mean, there's even an alchemical symbolism, I think, in even the tools that he used, And
I don't think there's any accent that he was telling you that the key to understanding the secret, is the electromagnetic field. And, you don't know if this stuff is being contrived on purpose, or if it's just a cosmic joke of the universe. My good friend Robert Lawler, who made extensive study of the Aborigines in Australia, told me that everything is coming down from above, and so many people will think that it's a conspiracy when really it's just the way that knowledge permeates the sphere of the human endeavor. And the older I get, the more I think that that's actually a better description of what's happening. And so, this is really this is the singularity that's about to be released right now. What I just described to you, and it'll be in a film I'm making early next year called The Alchemy Code, completely shown with modern computer graphics and everything. This is everyone says, the singularity is when machines will invent machines, like Ray Kurzweil says. The singularity is when there's, a new world order, as the conspiracy theorists say, but they're all wrong. The singularity, those may be singularities, but the real singularity is this. It's when there are enough information systems around the world to release any information that wants to be released, and then you release the information of the hypersphere and the hyperdimensional aspects of time, that people will finally begin to see who and what they are. And when that happens, when enough people reach that point of knowledge, then the singularity will occur, and that's going to happen between now and 2012, if I have anything to do with it.
Wow, that's amazing. And you're right, many people do attribute the singularity to be, well, it actually are, I guess, different singularities, because there is one called basically the technological singularity. And what is very interesting here, I think, is that many of those that actually are working on life extension technologies and connecting this with one of the guys who was behind the development of the Human Genome Project, called Craig J. Venter. He actually organized a contest. Have you heard about the X Prize before? Do you know what that is?
I have heard of it, yeah.
And one of the contests that they got together here was they award $10 million to the first company that can helped to sequence the DNA of 100 people in less than 10 days, I think, some kind of speed sequencing. Anyway, they dubbed this contest to the Archon Genomics X Prize, basically. So, I mean, is there a message here? What are these guys up to, you know?
Well, there is, and, you know, we should be very wary of these people because we don't want to concretize our genome. We don't really understand the genome to be able to cherry pick what we think is important and what we think isn't important in it, and because, you know, they say 96% of all our genes are junk DNA, but, you know, we know anyone who takes walks out in nature, anyone who studies natural processes knows that there's no such thing as junk in nature, and nature just doesn't waste its time making useless things.
That's right.
And so we know that there's no such thing as junk DNA, and so this can get very problematic and could create some very, very terrifying prospects if we're not careful. There's this guy, I'm trying to remember his name and I can't. Graham Hancock talks about this in his last book, Supernatural. There's a linguist who applied logic to language, and he discovered that there was a certain mathematical sequence that all languages on Earth use, and it's like the most common word is used a certain number of times, and then the second most common word is used almost exactly half of that many times, and that each word, as it goes down in its use, it is geometrically progresses downward in the number of times that it's used within any language, Arabic or English or French, and so somebody decided to look at DNA and see if it followed this pattern, this linguistic geometric pattern that this guy had developed, and they looked at the 5% of the DNA that is active, and it didn't follow. It didn't work. So they said, well, DNA is not really a language because it's not following this pattern, and everybody went away and were completely satisfied that DNA was not a language. Well, somebody else, a few years ago, and this is all in Graham Hancock's book, somebody else decided to look at junk DNA and see if it followed this pattern of geometric progression, and lo and behold, it did. And so
would you know
what
if
that
these
says to me is that the genome is really like a book of knowledge, and it's encased in all of us, and some of us are able to read it, and some of us aren't.
Wow. Well, it's holographic in one sense, I guess, and I think there were a couple of a couple of Russian scientists also a few years back that were actually did research connecting language with DNA and the fact that language actually affects DNA and programs it also actually in a way.
That's right, and that's what Terence McKenna was trying to do when he was doing his experiments with psychedelics. He was trying to create a translinguistic object. He thought the Philosopher's Stone was a translinguistic object that you could pull in from the higher dimension. And I think he was absolutely right on it. I don't know if he ever accomplished it. Sometimes I think Terence maybe became that translinguistic object himself, which may be the key to alchemy. I don't know. But so we can see that time is this 26 times the size of our world, our 3D world, and we can see that language and the genome work together with time to produce knowledge and gnosis. And so these three things together are, the great secret, the great mystery of language. Even Noam Chomsky, I asked Noam Chomsky once, about language, and he insisted that there had to be a your language or original language, because the language was too complicated to have developed in different places on Earth accidentally and have everything be so similar to each other. And again, you look at DNA, and the same thing occurs. This is Crick, the co-discoverer of DNA, was completely baffled as to how DNA could possibly. There wasn't enough time in the human Earth landscape for DNA to have developed, so he was completely perplexed by how DNA ever got developed, and actually he resorted to the panspermia theory to explain DNA, which may be very close to what's going on. And of course, this is given birth to the entire intelligent design field of biology, which is being decried by Richard Dawkins and a lot of the people in physics. But really, they have a point. You would need 40 to 60 billion years of development to develop anything as complicated as DNA.
Yeah.
Yet the Earth is only 4 billion years old, so how do you explain it?
Exactly. Sheesh, wow, exactly. This is so fascinating, and there's so much here, and exactly what you mentioned about even the root language. I know that there are a lot of people involved in this, trying to figure out basically what the first language was and where it came from, and of course this in the end might even tie in to some degree to the creation or something like that, because if there is some creator to that extent involved here, both the DNA and even the language could have been spawned basically from one single point. I don't know how many years back, of course, but that's what we're trying to figure out and trying to learn more about as we go along here. Wow, that's amazing. I just wanted to ask you what you were mentioning before about the alchemical code. Run this by us again. This is another film you're working on, and this is going to be out later next year, or?
Yeah, I'm racing like crazy to complete these films because I really feel that I'm in a race against time, and I'm doing everything I can to undercut the dominant paradigm. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't do anything but do this, and I will be doing this for the next 2 years or so, and then hopefully I'll be able to come up for air and take a break.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's too important to stop right now. Yeah, so we're doing this alchemy code. We're going to go all through Europe, filming all of these ancient symbols within the cathedrals and in castles, and even on the walls of paintings from 20,000, 30,000 years ago in southern France, to show that the ancient people of Europe, the original occupants of Europe, knew the secret of alchemy, knew the secret of hyperdimensional time, and that this knowledge was carried forth all the way up until the late 1700s is the best I can come up with, although I think it still exists, because that's why I find Fulcanelli's book, Mystery of the Cathedral, so hopeful, because it's obvious that it still existed even in the 20th century, and so that's what that film will be about, and it's going to explain this entire hypersphere, the way that hyperspatial time interacts with matter to create a Gnostic being, which is what we are. We are beings of gnosis, beings of knowledge, and you just sit around and just watch sporting events and drink beer and pornography. What a waste of an incredible gift that you've been given. And so it's like, until we decide to wake up and look, we're going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And I mean, that's why I do this radio show, among other things. And